only yesterday, and how I came to experience this particular tragedy, and why I will say that this motion brought by member for Naparima is in fact a timely motion. So it doesn't give us any satisfaction, but it is timely because in the interest of the people, we have to raise these issues. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we have had, and it is not denied, we have had the most heinous crimes on the ascendancy now, and it has been going on for some time. Yesterday, Mr. Deputy Speaker, someone whom I know was shot in the Piaco vicinity. And he's a reputable, well-known doubles vendor from Central Trinidad selling in Piaco. And he was basically plying his trade. He was doing what he is accustomed doing. Yes, it was very early in the morning. And he went to sell doubles, and in the course of doing that, earning his living, this happened. And how I came to know this, I mean, this kind of news, it goes through the media, social media, etc. But I also know members of the family, and I don't wish to bring them into, this debate, but safe to say that having gone there because the wife, the widow, now newly widow, she has taught my son in primary school, and they are also, the school is in my constituency, so there are different links, and that is why I attended on the home. And having attended, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to say that I pay tribute to them. There was a tremendous amount of composure by family members. But the mother of this person who has died and was murdered, she was indicating that she can't comprehend what is going on. And members of the family were saying that they thought that, at some point, if they doze off to sleep, maybe they will wake up and they will realize this was but a dream. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, finding yourself in these kind of circumstances, we don't know, certainly I don't know how to begin to even, start giving any kind of solace, giving any kind of comfort. How do we comfort persons like this? And this is just yesterday, a very immediate situation. But my colleagues on this side, they can tell you of different incidents like these, which they have found themselves in similar positions with members of their own constituency. And this is why we are here to debate this important motion. So I want to say to member for Naparima that I support his motion, and it is timely. And I too derive no satisfaction in having to debate something like this, but it is necessary if it is. The government intends to listen to some of the concerns, and as member for Naparima has said, if you hear the concerns, maybe you can start acting on them, and we can see a turnaround in the spiral in crime. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, before I get into my contribution, there are a few things that I wish to respond to. And I heard the last member speak, member for Port of Spain, North, St. Anne's West, Honorable Minister of Energy, and he was talking about, in response to member for Siparia, Honorable Leader of the Opposition, that the opposition only when it found itself in a position where there was a default position, they had no choice to support legislation, that is when they in fact supported the legislation. And I want to say that, for the record, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that is not so. And in fact, this opposition has shown that it will support legislation once it is properly brought. It is proper legislation. It balances the rights of both sides. It balances the right between the state wanting to seek good governance principles and also the rights of the individual. Once that balance is there, and we are satisfied that any encroachment on either side will be properly met. My friend spoke about the separation of powers principles. Once that can be met properly and we are satisfied remedies will be granted by the court and these sort of instances, we will support such legislation. And I think he was talking about Tax Information Exchange Agreements Act number 5 of 2020, Income Tax Amendment Act number 6 of 2020, Mutual Administrative Assistance in Tax Matters Act 7 of 2020. And those were in March of 2020, that period. And maybe those are the pieces of legislation that he was referring to. But there are other special majority bills passed with opposition support. And these include the Copyright Amendment Act number 4 of 2020, Sexual Offences Amendment Act 19 of 2020. One was in March as well, 2020. One is June to September 2019.
Members, please.
The Anti-Terrorism Amendment Act number 13 of 2018, debated in July of 2018. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Anti-Gang Act. Now, I heard my friend say that, you know, this anti-gang, we were hell-bent against it. Again, there were issues that were raised by the opposition. I am not seeking to repeat what Member for Siparia, Honorable Leader of the Opposition, said. But that bill having been brought, a position was taken once we were satisfied that we were seeing some movement from the government towards balancing the rights and ensuring that the individual rights were being protected. We gave in and we said, okay, we will now have it brought back to the House. That is what she was pointing out. Bring it back to the House in the same session and we will support it. It was passed with a sunset clause, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And that is the purpose of sunset clauses across the world. That you will then seek to look at the efficacy of that piece of legislation, knowing that it can have far-reaching consequences on the rights of individuals, and therefore if you are satisfied that it is basically fulfilling the aim of the legislation, that you will then say it will be extended. They could not show that it was satisfying the purpose for which it was passed. But that being said, that they came and they whittled it down in whatever manner, not that we agreed with it, and they passed it with a simple majority. What has happened with the effectiveness of the anti-gang bill, anti-gang law that exists as passed by them? So what is this big furor about that the opposition is not supporting them in fighting crime? That is just crying crocodile tears. But Mr. Deputy Speaker, I know that there's a utopic place that exists in the form or in the vicinity of Pine de Bal. And I expect that that person is coming. I expect that person to come here and say, Pine de Bal, that is where you could pass laws. The opposition will support everything. They will support everything. They will give you what you want. You could keep people locked away in prison, not having been convicted for time immemorial. And according to you, in Pine de Bal, that is where crime will go down because of that. I expect that kind of submission to come here, you know, in that utopic world. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, for the record, I love to go Pinal Debe on a Sunday morning. And I love my crispy sahina, I love my aloo pies, and I love my doubles. But I want to say, this debate is a serious one, and even going there, persons have a fear for risk of safety in going to these treasured places to enjoy, you know, some fine delicacies. So that is in terms of the legislation. Mr. Deputy Speaker, there were other pieces of legislation which were passed, which I didn't hear member for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West refer to today. And I will just say it very quickly. Anti-gang, I spoke about that. Interception of Communications Amendment Act 13 of 2020. Miscellaneous provisions. There are so many of the miscellaneous provisions, Mr. Deputy Speaker. A suite of legislation or bills came under miscellaneous provisions. And they were passed. And therefore, the question we have to ask is, I thought the government would have taken a position if they were going to mount that platform to talk about bills and legislation, talk about the effectiveness of those pieces of legislation in fighting crime. Because that is what we are ultimately here for. So there's no hoorah, according to Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, about the anti-gang legislation on our side. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we are not shifting the goalposts according to them. And so when he made reference to the change in bail law, it is somewhat anachronistic. It is an oxymoron to say that we have to bear in mind the separation of powers principles and then seek to condemn us when it is you have lawyers who are taking positions on behalf of their clients before the courts, in terms of challenging laws. That is what a democracy is. But I want to say in respect of that bail law, member for San Fernando West is here, previous Attorney General. And I want to understand what they are trying to pin on us, that there is spiraling crime, because there has now been a successful challenge against the position that if you are a murder accused, you can apply for bail. That is what the position is. And Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, get up and like he's so happy he get this Express article come through on his phone and oh, this is the first person to come out. He didn't bother to read the conditions, a compendium of conditions that the courts put on that murder accused. Remember, it is not a murder convicted, it is a murder accused. They are entitled to go, thanks to lawyers' jobs, and thanks to the quality legal maneuvering, they are entitled to do that in the interest of democracy. Thanks to them that you have a position that if you are accused, not convicted, if you are accused, you can go before the court and apply. There is no guarantee that you'll get it. There are judicial principles. For centuries, you know, UNC didn't invent this. For centuries, these principles have been decided and they have been accumulated in something called the common law. And this common law principles, it is what applies. So what you have is a position where a person can go and apply for bail, and the courts will determine whether you're entitled to it. And if they're so entitled, they deem that you are entitled to it and they decide they will give you bail, as in this particular case, which the member prior to me conveniently left out, they gave a compendium of conditions. You mix matters and you breach any one of those conditions, it's right back in prison. Unless the government is prepared, as I see they have been doing in previous speakers, throw your hands up and say, hey, the roof going to blow off with a little tornado wind and people going to break out and we can't depend on that. That's something else. But as far as I'm aware, the law continues to guarantee people's rights, and that is what we are about on this side. And we are not saying that everybody who is a murder accused must be roaming around free. Nobody on this side ever said that, or any lawyer that I know of ever submitted that before the courts. It is a matter that they are entitled to apply for bail. It's just that simple. And if it is, according to this Express report and the Minister of Energy, member for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, is of the view that something is wrong, is it that he is saying that for the length of time that that bill has been, that law, has been in place where you could not apply for it, what period is he talking about? Because crime has been spiraling out of control. This is only now, today, only today as a result of court proceedings and a successful challenge. This is the first person who got bail, murder accused, and conditions attached. So what was the cause for the time period that has gone by over the years that caused the spiral in crime? Nobody was being allowed to apply and to come out on bail if they were murder accused. So what hypocrisy is this? But Mr. Deputy Speaker, on that note, I want to define what is a hypocrite. I want to define what is a hypocrite. You know what hypocrisy and what is a hypocrite? It is a person saying that they will support procurement legislation, and when it is passed, they come and say they got in that legislation. That is hypocrite. Hypocrisy is when you come here and you're talking about Stanley John reports and asking the opposition to act on it when you didn't have the goal to come in the house and lay the Stanley John report for everybody to see. That is hypocrisy. And you have a Minister of National Security come here and shouting, war! He shouted war. It was a war of words. I don't know who he was talking to. The man shouted from beginning to end. No, Naparima was not shouting. Naparima, member for Naparima was passionate.
Members. Again, honorable member, adjust the chair, please. Adjust the chair.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, you know what hypocrisy is? Hypocrisy is coming to say, don't look at the results. We have a remand court. This is the first time, according to the Minister of National Security, we have a remand court. Hypocrisy is saying that that is on the compound of the prison, but you can't tell us how many people have been convicted. That is hypocrisy. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I know the substantive speaker allowed this hypocrite word to be used. I don't know in this house, yes, Minister of Finance, I know you were a little confused about that, but that was cleared up. Mr. Deputy Speaker, Mr. Deputy Speaker, hypocrisy, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is when you come here and you throw your arms and your hands up in the air and you basically absolve all responsibility and you throw the Police Service Commission under the bus and the different service commissions. That is hypocrisy. Hypocrisy and being a hypocrite, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is when you come here and we're talking about broken promises. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Member for Siparia, spoke about this. You promised 100 municipal officers, 100 per corporation, so we should have 1,400. She indicated that only 300 were appointed, according to the PNM's promise, you know. And then the minister comes and says, no, it's 726. Mr. Deputy Speaker, let us define what is hypocrisy. There were 426 municipal officers. A promise was made to take that up to 1,400. They added 300, and that is why they have 726. So hypocrisy is saying that we don't know what we're talking about. When we say you only appoint 300, you only appoint 300. There was 426 already in the system. That is 726. So where's the 1,400? We are entitled on this side to raise that. Are we serious about fighting crime, or we want to be hypocritical about crime? That is hypocrisy and talking about hypocrites. Now, I know they have an obsession on that side to talk about laying charges and calling people's names on this side. And it goes on, and even the Minister of National Security, if I could have charged and convict, I would have done it. And that is why they can't solve crime. You have a previous commissioner of police saying that none other than the Prime Minister was seeking to interfere and influence with his position, an independent position, to take positions.
48-6, please.
Member, I will have to appeal this particular one. Again, move on to another point, please.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, we are seeking to define hypocrite, but I will move on, please.
Please, I can hear.
Now,
you don't need to answer. I can hear. Proceed to another point.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, there are a lot more I want to say about that, but hopefully I will get to it. Now, I'm hearing some comments coming from the other side. I want to make my submission here. I didn't say anything to it, others. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I would like to make my submissions here. If there's a valid objection, stand on the standing orders, and I will give way, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I don't know what hypocrisy is this.
No need to reiterate.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, when we talk about statistics, I heard some statistics being waived, and as I said, it was a real shouting match by the Minister of National Security. But I just want to say very quickly, because I'm told I only have 10 minutes remaining. Mr. Deputy Speaker, would I be allowed to have the time extended to 45 minutes? So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to talk about murders between the period 2020, 2021, 2022. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, there's a reason why I chose that. This is in direct answer to the Minister of National Security. So I understand the debate is not about him, but in as much as he has raised it, I want him to go back and look at the statistics under him. And what I want to say is that there has been a 50% increase in murders for a similar period, a 94% increase in fraud offenses, a 47% increase in woundings and shootings, 56% increase in kidnappings. I'm talking about 2020, July 2020 coming up, and we are in March 2022. 41% increase in murder of our elderly, at least 97 larcenies of a dwelling house, 1,072 burglaries and break-ins, 20 business places were robbed. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, you didn't hear any decrease. I don't think anybody mistook what I was saying and heard the word decrease. They were all increases. So I don't know what statistics he's quoting from, but I would suggest that he goes back and look at wherever he's getting his information from. Mr. Deputy Speaker, that is in terms of the statistics. Now, I want to say that in 2015, and this is important, Mr. Deputy Speaker, in August 2015, and Mr. Deputy Speaker, with your permission, and I want to show again what is hypocrisy. And I want to show the meaning of who is a hypocrite. We had a statement, and these are very important words. You know, I took it seriously. I still do. The yardstick we will use to measure our success in crime fighting is how you feel about your security. I treat those words very, very, very important. They're very important. Those words were uttered 7 years ago, none other by our Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley.
Remember, just in your preamble before that, you were saying you will identify who is an hypocrite. So again, I need you to retract that statement. Hold on. I need you to retract that statement and move on.
I retract.
I need you to retract this statement based on what you said prior to the statement you made just now.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, if I said who is a hypocrite, I withdraw that outright.
And I needed to withdraw the last statement also.
Which is,
I
will define who is a hypocrite. I withdraw that, Mr. Speaker.
I need no assistant.
I withdraw the statement, Mr. I thought I had said that. If I want to say I'm saying it now, I am defining what is a hypocrite.
Let's don't go down that road. I have ruled, Naprima, I need no assistant.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I abide by the ruling of the chair and I withdraw that statement.
And you proceed.
Thank you. Now, and I was speaking about the words that were uttered in 2015. What you have now... Sorry?
You don't need to repeat anything with regards to it.
That's fine, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I take your guidance. I'm moving along. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I would like to have my full time, please. Now, if this, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is the Prime Minister's, and this is the head of the National Security Council, this is the head of the government, this motion is about the government. If that is the government's own yardstick, they can't take that from anywhere else. This is coming from the top, and that is the government's yardstick. Then what are we faced with later? That was in August of 2015. I am talking about now, when we think about what is going on now, what are the statements that we are hearing now, Mr. Deputy Speaker? And this is where I am saying that you have a position being taken where none other than the Minister of National Security taking the position when called out by one Mr. Fazir Mohammed, who is a respected journalist, a sports commentator, a sports analyst, and a morning show program host. And this is what he had to say on the failure to keep people safe. Minister Hines, in his, I must say, characteristic, brazen, bold, and arrogant manner, this is what he said: "No, my duty is not to ensure that people feel safe and secure." So you have a Prime Minister saying what is the yardstick, and many years later now, almost 7 years later, you have the Minister saying something different.
Honourable Member.
Yes, please.
Again, we spoke about, and a decision was made on that statement that was made some time ago by the Honourable Prime Minister, and I don't want it to reference to anything based on the topic that you're on of hypocrisy. And that I'm not going to get up on my legs again to talk about that particular aspect.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, respectfully, you made me withdraw the hypocrisy already, so I'm just moving on with the debate.
But you are making reference on the same particular individual
Yes.
as you go along.
And Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am showing that if we are serious about fighting crime, this motion is about government. How can you have the head of the government, the head of the National Security Council, saying one thing as being the approach or the standard, the yardstick by which we must look at crime, and then years later, when crime is spiraling out of control, suddenly we have a different standard? That's all I'm saying. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, Police Service Commission. How much time do I have again, Mr. Deputy Speaker?
Just about 3 minutes.
Now,
4 minutes, sorry, 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to talk about Police Service Commission a little bit. And I don't have much time. I really wanted to touch on human trafficking, but I will maybe in another debate. For the purposes of this debate, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to say that when we look at the Police Service Commission, I want to briefly touch on the implication of not having installed a substantive commissioner of police, without which, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the potential for a further deterioration in the crime situation in this country exists. That is what we are dealing with here. So I don't want to go into debate on the Police Service Commission itself and how it was dismantled and all that went wrong. But I want to say that where the country has seen, we are talking about crime, the elements in this country are not only law-abiding, they are the criminal elements as well. And so where they see that such an interference, or however they perceive it, Mr. Deputy Speaker, they see something taking place which led to the dismantling of the substantive commission of police. What signal are we sending to the criminal elements? And I heard the previous member talk about consequences. The consequences of what has happened between July or August 2021 to now, this is what we are reaping here now, the consequences of those actions which led to the total dismantling of a Police Service Commission, the removal of a substantive commissioner of police, and this is what we have to deal with now. Numbers that we have no pleasure in reciting in this chamber, but numbers which are real and which we have to grapple with. So I want to say that it in effect leads to a headless, member for Naparima has often said rudderless, police service. And this is important because we have just witnessed one of the darkest episodes in this country's history that has resulted in where we are today. Mr. Deputy Speaker, it is unfortunate that I don't have time to get into it. I want to say, Mr. Deputy Speaker, as I seek to conclude, that I categorically support the motion that Member of Parliament for Naparima has brought before this House in the interest of the people of this country. Mr. Deputy Speaker, having listened to him pilot this motion, I, member for Chaguanas West, I am overwhelmingly convinced that the Minister of National Security must do the right thing. And we are talking about, under the motion, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we are talking about a motion to resolve that this House reprimand this government for its failure to effectively prevent the surge in criminal activity in this country. And I am saying that the ultimate way to reprimand this government is to have the Minister of National Security resign or fired, and this government call an immediate elections, because that is the ultimate reprimand that will satisfy this situation. Mr. Deputy Speaker, if we are talking about the rights and the interests of the people, we must abide and rule by the law of the people, by the rights of the people, by the wishes of the people. I thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, I appreciate what Mr. Victor and company doing to come in the ghetto and hear the ghetto cries and try to reach the ghetto and assist the ghetto in the right way. The ghetto deserve in Library betterment. And we want it, we need it. And that's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Here again to the general public, Trinidad Tobago, and the further islands and the wider world. Good evening. We're coming from Trinidad and Tobago, from the village of Brea. Listen, I come here this evening, first and foremost, to endorse Victor Roberts as the candidate for Brea constituency. Reason being, I've seen Mr. Victor operate. I've seen him in the last election, how he was fighting and what he had offered to the people. However, you all didn't vote him in. And we see the end result. What you get? A road overloaded with potholes. Water is at its minimal. And, I mean, the list goes on. The list goes on and on and on. And some simple solutions that I would hear Mr. Roberts talk about that could fix it. You don't need rocket scientists. Yeah? Mr. Marvin Gonzalez, dishonorable, and I said dishonorable, THISS, dishonorable Marvin Gonzalez. There are so many simple situations. You could share water in these communities down here. Ask your Prime Minister or your Minister of Finance to just give you a subsidy so that people who want 4 tanks will pay for 2. So that when you shed water, people would have reserve water. Water tanks would be thing. Marvin, there's simple solutions to fix the thing. But all it is talk one pile of whatever. And you know what I mean? You know. But you see the people down here? The people down here, what the people down here need is solutions. Every time when you come on the television and they're telling me about the problem, we know the problem and we know more about the problem than all that. You see the problem? We create the problem. First we know the problem. You could sell all your problems. So when all you come and tell me the problem is it has leaks. Mr. Man, we don't want to know about that. We want to hear the solution. I used to supervise at a particular time in the job I was doing. And I hate somebody come with a problem and no solution. Don't come to me, no problem, and you don't have a solution. So Marvin, when all you come on the TV to talk to we, all you're not talking to all your minions, you know, all you're talking to people and people who can understand. So all you must make sense to us, make some sense. And not only you, this Minister of Health, and I have to call him Dishonorable Minister of Health, THIS, Dishonorable Minister of Health, you, Dishonorable Minister of Health. You is a failure, a total failure. You haven't done one thing to help the health ministry, and you just come there with something. Listen, this is a failed administration, and I'm going to advocate. And everybody around here in Brea know me as a person who work around the PNM, who work with the PNM. I was in the office working with the Member of Parliament in Fitzgerald Jeffrey Rain, both his stint in Parliament. And I see where he tried, and I know that there are parliamentarians too who takes the job only for a pay. Only for a pay. I can never say that Fitzgerald Jeffrey was corrupted, but at all, he was not a corrupted fellow. But you happening, them fellas was protecting the salary and not the constituents. He was protecting his salary and how far he could reach in government, as opposed to protecting your constituents, the people who make you. Even when the PNM lost and only had a small maxi full of people, they had 12. Only a small maxi they could have full. Jeffrey was part of it. And still he had no power because what? The PNM don't belong to you all. Jeffrey tried. I was there with him and I know he tried. But PNM don't belong to all you. PNM belong to them pinks. And if all they don't understand it and all they feel, well, we, and all we could hold on to is political thing. All they're holding on to nothing because all they remain poor as a church mouse. All they still living in old house. All they still buying used car and all kind of thing. I mean we, because I still in that category too. I haven't worked out it. It's just sufferation after sufferation. And none of you intend to, well, pull the bull by the horns. Well, this evening, apart from endorsing Mr. Victor Roberts as a candidate, and I'm asking people of the Brea area, pay attention to what Mr. Roberts is saying, what he is doing, and please put your X by Mr. Victor Roberts, regardless of what party. He has shown to me that he would be a man for the people, and he has chosen the UNC. So put your X by the UNC. I know a little like to hear that, but let me tell you something. Mr. Victor Roberts will be working for you through the UNC. Through the UNC. He cannot do it under the PNM because let's see how much people only vote under the PNM for. What they do for you. Right now, McClatchy, anyone only could approach McClatchy. Which one only know McClatchy? Eh? What are they doing? Listen, people of Brea, I'm asking you again. Think, listen to Mr. Roberts, hear what he has to say, hear what he has to offer. And I know he has a lot to offer. I want you to listen to him, hear what he has to offer, and make sure on the day of election, you vote with an informed state of mind. You would be informed. It's just that we had to vote PNM because we black. Eh? Eh? How much black man you see running off the country, getting the riches of the country? Imber, this one, that one, all of them skin pale. All of them is a pack of pale skin people. I mean, no offense. I have no objection about the color of a man's skin or anything. However, we are being hoodwinked by a whole set of smart people up there. They ain't doing no hard work, but they're living off of your sweat. Crowd of people, listen to what's going on. I am going to close off here now, but I'm still going to ask you again, listen to what Victor Roberts has to offer as opposed to what the PNM sent for you, because they will send somebody in 2 weeks' time. They won't send somebody up here to deal with you or to find out about Brea. If you ask the earlier MP about some road in the back of Brea, he can't tell you because he's not here. It's 2 weeks before elections. All bring them and all just run and vote a man blindly like blind little children running to get the ball. Come on, let me get serious. We are big people. We are mature people. We have a sense of direction. We know where we're going. We know where we want to go. And if you don't know, your children would know. And if your children don't know, your grandchildren would know. Educate your offsprings as they come along so that you would have some form of understanding and an informed way of thinking. People understand it, think. That is all we're asking you to do, just think. Stop just being buffoons and just be black. So we had to vote the black party. What is black about the PNM? Anybody can tell me what's black about the PNM? What is black? We had to blacklist you all after they win the election. Thank you very kindly.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a special good afternoon to Mr. Victor. I come this evening on that policy. This evening, we come to speak about the truth. Yeah. And we come to speak about the wrongdoing. There's certain things going on where we need to know. My first question is the shifting around of the party. When one do a wrong, you shift him around to go back to do the same thing. And today, I decide to speak on Mr. Victor, which I do believe from the information that I get from him, I believe that we're going the right way. And I would like to tell you my concern. My concern is about the youth. Yeah. That is my concern here this evening. Because 90% of the youth in Vancouver, in Brea, in Vecini, haven't have a job. Always send them to different trade school. And when they come from there, they still don't have a job. When they're seeking for a job, you're telling them that they don't have the experience to own a job. So then, I want all you to tell me what are you creating. If it's monsters, you're creating murderers, because them is the youth of today. And if all you're doing them that, what you expect from that? What I want to know, why it is that all you're shifting all your party from one to the next to come back to give you the same thing, the same replay. What we've been getting for years. We need for all of whosoever do the wrong, give them the punishment to suit that.
Yes. Yes.
Don't shift them around to come back to give you the same thing. We don't want no repetition of that. And this evening, I want to speak to the Minister of Labor, and I want to speak to the Minister of Sports. I want to know what they're doing to the youth. Or they have no activities for the youth. Or they have no job for the youth. And I want an answer from all you for we to step further. Because right now, I fed up at that. The people fed up at that. What you want the people to do, what you want the elders to do. They have children, they can't control it. They have a village council, there is no help.
None.
And it's that what they're there for. A village council is to curve the people around. And they're not doing that. All what they're doing, they're creating monsters, which we don't want. So I'm asking and pleading to you to help you out. We have a minister here. It's just like we don't have one. They do nothing for nobody. You go to the councillor, he do nothing for you. So then where all the live we standing? I want to know where all the live we standing. In the middle of nowhere. And I want all you today to give you an answer or send a message for me what we could do to curb that. What I want to take place, politics is not about race or color. What we're dealing with the truth. And politics is not no part of my bag. I want all you to tell me if it is the right way all you going or the wrong way. But far as I understand and what I see is the wrong way all you going. I'm waiting for an answer why it is all you not find an individual when he do a wrong. I want an answer for that. And I'm waiting on that answer. And that is my thing from my heart.
Good evening again. My name is Renison Jeffrey. And to say in a nutshell, what we're trying to achieve here in La Brea is to bring back good governance to the people of La Brea. For far too long, the people of La Brea have suffered. For far too long, the people of La Brea have not benefited from the resources of La Brea. The industries and them that open up around the area, they only hiring we to build it. And they're bringing outsiders there to work. And we fed up at that. For we to get a little walk down there, we had to block the road right through. We had to pull thing all in front of the road. And you know what they're saying about we after? They're saying we like riot. They're saying we like bacchanal. They're saying, boy, yeah, I don't... They say, we in La Brea like to smoke marijuana. And let me tell you something. What you're getting on like it's only in La Brea, people just get locked up for that. What are you trying to fool we down here? Tell we down here if you just don't want to represent we. Don't come and say is that because it's the whole of Trinidad and Tobago. We know Moruga that does grow marijuana there. It's the biggest among the weed field. Or you never get a weed field here down here. What are you trying to do we? Why are you saying that it's only the marijuana thing we are down here and we don't want to work? What type of nonsense are you telling we? Because here what's going on. For far too long, we have been underrepresented here. For far too long, or you turn we into a kind of criminal. Because if we had a thing, we had to block the road and we had to catch you the locking we up. What's going on here? What's going on with oil? Why are you not hearing us, Mr. Prime Minister? And the brother, they just talk about the youths. Or your mama guy we. Or you sending we to do all kind of program down here. And the syllabus that they have within the school here. If you used to get a proper syllabus, you have to go place like Princeton and like Central. Because or you're not running the courses down here. When we go there and we want to be and we want to do like industrial mechanical maintenance, we have to go Princeton. Why are you doing with that? Down here had the biggest industry. It's a petrotrin down here. And people from all over, all Marabella, all over coming down here. Why we cannot benefit from our resources? What were you doing the people at asphalt? What were you doing them? Or you practically trying to see to close down asphalt? People suffering for the pay 2 and 3 weeks. And after that they get it, and by the time they get it, some of them say they ain't getting the bank taken all because some of them take out loans. Some of the people don't want to talk because when you're watching the program and when you're with a book, writing down the names and they say, all right, that man talk, we go victimize him. Or you're using constructive victimization to silence the people. Or you're going into all them industries and them and telling them, hey, that man talking, fire he. I ain't gonna lie, I's a victim of that. I is a victim of that because I started to talk out on certain issues. And when you do like that, or you find we in La Brea here must stay silent and love the conditions that we in. Look these sheds on them that they build all over here. And Mama Guy talk when it now start, people don't say pay a rent to sell in them shed on them. Bump you say nobody could not go in the shed unless they pay rent by until the people on the block here. Or you tell me if I'm wrong, the people retaliate and say they're not paying. That's why people occupying the shed on them. That is how they the Mama Guy we fed up at that. Here in La Brea, we fed up at that. And let me tell you, it's a mean fear, no victimization. They see my villagers and them, my comrades and them, or you have to send somebody from outside to get me. And from the time where you come, people go talk. And what I'm saying here, this is a calling for everybody here. I know many of the people here on the block in La Brea here, the politicians of the day fool all here. They come around election time and they say, boy, come and vote for we go take. But when you go and check them, it's nothing. They say Makashi never passed back here. I didn't really want to call up his name to make him popular too much. But it's not that I'm really trying to highlight it. I'm trying to highlight where their intentions is to the people. Them only loyal to power and the party that they're in. And we here in Library and environs have to change that type of representation. We have to stand up and tell the ruling party that they do not have we loyalty no matter what. We must tell them that the loyalty lies with us. And if you're not seeing about us, we're going to vote you out. And I'm calling out all the people and them. From Library, inside Library, Sobo, inside Sobo, Gonzal, Veseni, Vantreva. I want all of you, Salic Trace, Palo Seco, you stand up. Stand up. Let me send the message once and for all. This type of representation that we get in here in Library, it have not been working for us. We have to go point to go into access the bank. Why we can't have that kind of representation in Library? The only how you're surviving here in Library is if you know somebody. If you know somebody, that's the only how. And contract is being given out underneath the board. We can't survive. We want that change. We want to change. And here what I'm saying here today, people, let we stand up as a body to try to bring back good governance here in Library. We could start from here. The rest of the country will follow through. Let we start from here. The youths and them here is not good alone for the block. They could sit down in offices. They could sit down in parliament. And they could make a change here in Library. And the youth here could occupy that position. It's not for them in Westmoreland. It's not for them in Cascade. We here from Library could get somebody that can represent us. And all we need is for you, the people, to stand up. We want it to stand up. We want when the time comes that when we had to get something, we had to call our minister in the night and we tell him we wait to meet we. We know that. We want Oye to judge us on the merits that we have. Let us stand up and bring back Library. That is my contribution.
Right, so blessed good evening to each and every one. Of course, we are on the block here in Library, and today was another cooking day. Another cooking day. We'll be back in Library within the next 2 weeks, where we will continue this program that we on in bringing back that love in Library. So we are on the block here. Here is what we call the block. And for those of you who don't understand what the block is, at another time we're going to explain that. All right? But we're having a time here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Library. This is Library. This is we. We live different. We live with our love. In Library here, we in fence up. We house. We in pull. We gate fence. We in. The dog had to live too. The dog had to live too. You know, Library people still had a love where whatever little they have, you know, they share, they make a hustle on the front line, they sell a thing or two, but at the end of the day, it's a love in Library. And today, ladies and gentlemen, Jeffrey spoke and Jeffrey touched everything that needed to be touched. Everything. But I want to use part of what Jeffrey said as a springboard. Jeffrey speak about the stigma that the politicians give to Library, that all Library could produce is weed smokers. This is something that we heard emanating out of the mouth of a minister during the 2015 period. And added to that, what has happened is that those people from 1956 who represented Library, starting with A.C. Alexis, who was an independent. And then after falling in love with Eric Williams' sister, he became a member of the PNM. And after A.C. Alexis, we had Ian Anthony. Ian Anthony was the shirt jack man, the brown shirt jack or the black shirt jack, who used to come through La Brea and smile. You know, you always have a pleasant smile. And making the people in La Brea believe that all it takes is a smile. After Ian Anthony, we had Albert Richards coming in under the NAR. After Albert Richards, we come and we had Hedridge Barrow. After Hedridge Barrow, we came and we had Fitzgerald Jeffrey, my partner uncle. After Fitzgerald Jeffrey, we had Nicole Oliveri. And after Nicole Oliveri, we now have Stephen Missing Clash. Not Mark Clasher, Missing Clasher, because he never here. And I don't understand what the PNM philosophy for La Brea, what it really is, because I'll tell you something. You cannot tell me, except for 1986, when you had Albert Richards for the NAR, you have had PNM here for 47 years. And what PNM have done to this constituency that they call La Brea was to take away the wealth, the resources from the people and put it in the hands of their friends, their financiers, and their colleagues. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot tell me that we have one of the world wonder. We have one of the world wonder here at the Pitch Lake. The first oil well was drilled right here offshore in La Brea. After oil, pitch, and gas, all La Brea have to show is grass, nothing else. And who would you blame? I will tell you today. I'm blaming the PNM, but I'm also blaming the people. And look on my brethren on the block here. I'm blaming the PNM, but I'm also blaming the people. Because you see, my mission is to help the people to understand. When you elect a member of parliament to represent you, and they represent a party and they come back to you next 5 years, it is time to get rid of them if you didn't get representation. When we vote an individual and we send them in the House of Representatives, according to the People's Act, we send you there to look after the interests, to raise the standard of living, and to raise the standard of the community. That is what we send you there for. But what we have done as a people, we have allowed a party to dominate us by promises. I remember Keith Rowley came here in 2015, and he promised the people a plywood factory. All you remember that? Yeah. He promised La Brea a plywood factory. Today, ladies and gentlemen, La Brea ain't even see the ply.
Much less the wood.
They ain't see the ply. So to the end of the day, Rowley came back in 2020 in August, and they put up a big billboard in Point Door Junction. And they said, La Brea, the port is coming. We already signed a memorandum of understanding. Our counterparts in China, they were already here on site visit. And if you allow the PNM to lose the election, it's bye-bye port. The port is scheduled to start within the next 2 to 3 months. One part of the port would start. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we in 2022, and all we get from that port is the resources leaving here and going Port of Spain. That is all we get in. And this is what we have supported over the years. We have supported nothing but promises. And since I small, my brethren on the block tell me that promise is always a comfort to the behavior like Rowley, a fool. My brethren always tell me that. And I am here to tell Labre today that we must no longer vote on promises. We, the people in Labre, it is time we stand up and demand our rightful share in the economy, in the wealth of this country. You see, we have produced too much for this country. We have built Trinidad and Tobago. We have single-handedly in our constituency stabilized the economy of this country. Over the years, when oil was flipping, balancing at an all-time low, we stood up as a constituency, Labre, Faizabad, Point 14, and we pay our dues to this society. And what we get in return is a bunch of idiots that they send to represent us, who turn away from us and seeks to represent the party instead of the people. Yeah. And I am telling the people in Labre, we have to get people who will represent people. People must come first before any given party. I joined the UNC, and I'll tell you why today. I am a member of the UNC, not because I like Kamala, not because I like the UNC, but because of the policies that Kamala Prasad Bisesa brought throughout 2010 and 2015, where the average citizen of this country would have benefited from some level of the public purse. Education to Kamala was at an all-time high because Kamala Prasad Bisesa understand, or for a better word, understood that the future generation of this country, we were moving into the computer age, and therefore we had to equip our individuals like Singapore. While Singapore doesn't have oil and gas, they develop human resources, and today they could stand and shine and get a job any part of the world. So Kamala brought laptops to the school where our children from a tender age would have been able to be computer literate. And what Keith Rowley did when he came into government, when we believed that Keith Rowley would have helped and expand and develop this thing so that our youths, our children, our grandchildren would have been prepared to become entrepreneurs in this country, earning $1 without looking for handouts, where they would have been able to stand on their own feet and build this country to the end of the day. Keith Christopher Rowley sent our children backwards in this country. And that is why I will have to continue to speak. I will have to continue to help the people of this country to understand that we cannot have a government that ruled us for 47 years. And if I should ask any one of these guys on the block, where is the grocery for the black man? Where is the contract for the black man? Where is the pharmacy? The black man owns nothing in this country under our government who control us for 47 years. And to the end of the day, you know what they'll tell us? The youths in want nothing. That is what they will tell us. But when the process was in place, where the youths would have been able to move away from crime and the block life and the criminal life, Keith Christopher Rowley came and took away the policies and sent everybody back down. That is why the crime level is what it is today. It is what it is today because the PNM government have never paid attention to the areas that we call the ghetto, the blocks. They have never paid attention. They believe that the wealth of this country is for the upper class. Well, I have news for you, Keith Rowley. We will start a movement in Labre that attention to the areas that we call the ghetto, the blocks. They have never paid attention. They believe that the wealth of this country is for the upper class. Well, I have news for you, Keith Rowley. We will start a movement in Labre that will demand the wealth share equitable within this country. Every human being in this country must benefit from the wealth of this country. Yeah. That is what it must be. That is what it has to be. We have suffered too long. Yeah. We have suffered too long. We stand up. We hold up. We build the PNM. We build this party because it is a party that we believe resemble we. And we build this party. But yet to the end of the day, the party that we build neglect us, leave us behind. A matter of fact, today 7, 8 weeks, people in Lake Asphalt cannot get the pay. Just imagine, Lake Asphalt, who looking after one of our assets, one of our resource. And today, 7, 8, 9 weeks, they cannot get the money after Colin Imbert speak on TV and say that things were put in place so that they will be continuing to get their salary. And this is what we support. A bunch of lying politicians, a bunch of deceivers, politicians who seek only after themselves. This week, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. I went up to what's that trace name again? What's that trace name again in San Francisco? Banmari Trace. I went up in Banmari Trace because somebody called me and said, hey, a set of CPEP workers cutting a yard that belongs allegedly to A&V Drilling. So I jump in my vehicle and I go on up because you know I like facts. And when I go on up there, I do a video and show you CPEP workers cleaning a yard, a big contractor, taxpayers' money spending to clean a P&M financial yard. You understand? What is this going on in our country? We have seen this same contractor were all tied up in the oil scandal, the fake oil scandal, where they receive millions of dollars for oil that never went to Petrotrin. On top of that, Rowley came out and said that that is his friend. And what Rowley do when we would expect that the white-collar crime and those who breach the law would face the same penalty as the man on the block. What did the government do? The government protect him. Rowley stand up and say, that is my friend, sending a message to the investigators. That is the Prime Minister's friend, you don't mess with him. But when the little black boy on the street break the law, he must end up in MSP. But when these criminals, these rich criminals who continue to rob and steal the life of this country from the youth, you know what happened to them? They are protected by law. They are the best lawyers. Lawyers who should be in jail. Lawyers who should be in jail, jumping out with a big tie and walking into the Hall of Justice, smiling with millions of we money in the pocket. And that is what we support. Ladies and gentlemen, Trinidad, all you better wake up in this country. This is not time to play. Wake up in this country. Wake up in this country. Let us demand the same law that jail us is the same law must jail them. Let us demand, Trinidad and Tobago, that the wealth of this country spread across the board. You telling me Faris Alwari, $20 million in rent. $20 million in rent. And let me tell you something. I have a friend who working there. And I want to tell you something. It's only one level and one office upstairs occupied. So that couldn't go in some other tower somewhere by there. That couldn't fit in some other building. But no, we paid $20 million for rent. And guess what? While you can't get your food card, while you can't get your pension, while you can't access your medication in the pharmacy under the CDAT program, you know what? Faris rent reaching day before the month done. And we support that. We support that as a people. Let me tell you something as I wrap up here today. If all you're in wake up, now with what's going on in this country, you want me to tell you a secret? All you will live to see all your daughters and all your sons become prostitute in this country to survive under this government. So if all you know what good for you, all you wake up Trinidad, all you stand up Trinidad, and let us mobilize. Let us mobilize every constituency one by one and shut it down until we get fresh elections.
elections in this country where we could put a government who have the interests of the people at heart. I thank you. God bless you. I out.